Hello everyone and welcome to this episode, the pregnancy one of the Women Talking About Learning podcast. I'm Andrew Jacobs. As we've mentioned before, our guests suggest the topics, and when someone came up with pregnancy, we were overwhelmed with the response. Pregnancy can be a profound and transformative experience, not just physically, but also emotionally and professionally. So we 5 professional women to share their experiences. The episode is a bit longer as a result. Our first guest is Ilaria Boncori. Ilaria is a professor in Organisational Studies and Human Resources Management, an Academic Fellow of CIPD, and a mum of 2 wonderful girls. Her research focuses on inequalities in the workplace, particularly around gender, ethnicity, sexuality, and foreignness. Her most recent work explores issues around pregnancy and pregnancy endings at work. Our second guest is Anna Ogilby. Anna is a people development lead working for the UK Health Security Agency and a lone parent to 4 daughters. She is passionate about supporting women with personal and professional development, social mobility, and creating equitable and inclusive learning pathways. Our third guest is Glynis Skitt. Glynis is a leadership and development facilitator with over 15 years of experience helping people reflect on who they are beyond just what they know or are known for. She works with individuals and teams who want to share their expertise to make more of an impact. Our next guest is Hannah Clark. Hannah is the founder of Talia Marketing, where she helps L&D organisations grow through sharper, more effective communication. With over 10 years' experience in the L&D industry, she combines commercial insight with storytelling to drive real impact. Her focus is simple, turning marketing into a genuine growth driver, not just a tick box exercise. Our final guest is Simrat Parwar. Simrat is an L&D leader with over 14 years of experience designing and scaling learning strategies across healthcare, retail, finance, IT and education. She focuses on human-centered learning and the role of storytelling in building connection and meaningful behaviour change. Outside her professional work, she supports women through pregnancy and postpartum, helping to dispel myths and offering practical guidance through a significant and often underserved life transition. Recorded in March this year, this is Women Talking About Learning. This is Ilaria, Anna, Glynis, Hannah and Simrat talking about pregnancy.
So afternoon, ladies. I'm Anna, and I'm really excited to be joining you this afternoon to speak about sort of learning and pregnancy, something that I'm quite well versed in. So I'm a lone parent of 4 daughters. So I've had sort of 4 pregnancies where I've navigated the journey of being in a career, being a parent, being pregnant all at once, and really looking forward to sharing my experiences and hearing about your experiences as well, and seeing how they relate to mine. I would say all mine have been quite different and have had very different pregnancies. And in some, I have really sort of embraced learning and embraced career development. And in others, I've really taken a step back and I've really allowed myself time to reflect and just actually be pregnant. So wondering if people have had, similar or different experiences to me. Hannah?
Yeah, so I'm at the other end of my journey, Anna.
Okay.
I have just had my first child. I've just gone through my first pregnancy experience. Baby Ronnie is 6 weeks old. So I'm very much fresh in the newborn trenches and very fresh in that whole experience of being pregnant. Being completely candid, as everybody always is on this podcast, we were trying for a long while. I really wanted to be pregnant. I had a lot of time to consider pregnancy and my career and work and how that would impact me. And blimey, the reality is different, isn't it? You can't actually ever imagine what it's like. And those 9 months, they were crazy. They were tough. 2025 was a big year for me. So yeah, I applaud you for the 4. I'm already thinking, can I do this 4 times? But yeah, I'm definitely at the start of my journey. Ilaria, what's your situation?
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to join this conversation today. So I come with like two hats. So I'm a professor looking at inequalities in the workplace, and I study pregnancy endings, and fertility. So I have that kind of like academic learning hat. But I'm also a mom of two lovely girls, and so I've had to learn a lot in that in that role. So I'm hoping to share my experience both as an academic and of my pregnancy as a mom. And Simran, you want to go next?
I'm so excited to be here all the way from Canada with all of you. So nice. Where am I? I have gone through 2 pregnancies, 1 miscarriage. So I've kind of gone through a bundle of things. And I'm also an L&D professional. So I think it's just been the learning of gestation. There's no manual, you can, I think when I was pregnant, I could Google everything and I could say, oh, I got this right. But when I got pregnant, when I gone through it, no, it wasn't not even close to that. So there's no manual. So I think there's such a neat parallel between the L&D and the pregnancy piece. I've gone through twice where you kind of conception and then you ingest like the gestation. And then so I'm very excited to talk about those things. Do I have academic knowledge? No. Have I done a lot of reading? Yes. I support mothers postpartum. Out of my will and my choice, because I think that's the community that we need to create for each other, because those are things people don't talk about normally. And they just expect women of this day and age to just have it all together. And it's not true, So I'm excited to be here. Glynis, what brings you here?
So my name's Glynis. I had 2 pregnancies. I would say first one was a long journey to get there. There was IVF. And then second pregnancy was started trying and 1 month later. So planned, but slightly quicker than expected. And I think I wanted to come today because although there were hard parts of pregnancy, overall, I loved it. As soon as I given birth, I was like, when can I go again? I'd still love to go again, although I'm not going to go again. I think there was always been an element of wanting to do it again, but also knowing now that, Anna, I can't imagine doing 4. Wow.
I think it's so interesting, isn't it? Because we all think about like, but clearly everyone in this call, we were happy to be pregnant. And before you actually fall pregnant for the first time, you have this kind of, okay, so everyone gets morning sickness. Everybody has the same thing. At the second trimester, you have these symptoms. And that's not reality, is it? That's not how it goes. And I learned that the hard way last year of every single week it's a different thing, it's a different challenge. And I think also when it comes to the workplace as well, that's a big thing, because there's a lot of stereotypes of like, oh, this is how this person's going to act because they're pregnant. That's not realistic, because we all act so differently because we're all going through completely different journeys, aren't we, Anna?
Yeah, absolutely, Hannah. And during my first pregnancy, I was 22, so comparably to my latter pregnancy, I've got a quite big age gap between my 4 children. I was comparably quite young, and I spent really the focus of that pregnancy, and as I guess is the focus for a lot of people during the first pregnancies, I spent that time really dedicating my learning about being pregnant. As Simrat said, reading all the books, really sort of trying to build up my knowledge to this alien area for me, and finding out that a lot of the things that I knew about pregnancy were, at times like misconceptions. So I think, that in my first pregnancy was the real focus. Whereas in other pregnancies, so my second pregnancy, for example, I was a little bit older, during that pregnancy, I was applying for promotions. I actually got a promotion and started a new role, and then went straight off on maternity leave. So I was really more career focused. I felt I knew more. I felt more confident in my body and about the experience of being pregnant. Third pregnancy, I actually got hyperemesis, which is sort of the extreme morning sickness condition. I've not had it in the previous pregnancies. Luckily, didn't have it in the last one. So that pregnancy was a total wipeout that was just an existing pregnancy. And then in my 4th pregnancy, I was doing a apprenticeship, operational delivery qualification. I work in the civil service, so there's been quite a lot of different apprenticeships and things I've done in time. And yeah, so all completely different. But I think for one of the most important things that I would say for women who are pregnant is actually taking the time to learn about pregnancy. And I'm sure I'm sure it's all something that we're really interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you there, Anna. My pregnancy was strange because I was at this point in my career that everything was going really, really well. And I didn't want to lose that. And I got pregnant. And like I've already said, I was really trying. And suddenly I was pregnant and I felt this loss of identity. I was like, oh no, am I just a mum now? I'm not my career person. I'm not that marketing director anymore. What's going to happen? So I found myself learning a lot about pregnancy. I had a lot of complications as well. I know more about the human body now than I ever knew before. I don't know how I managed to pass my science GCSE. I did not know anything these doctors were talking about, versus also actually trying to learn to keep my career going, if that made sense. I was learning new things and I was finding myself looking at new courses because I didn't want to lose that skill, that person that I'd become. So I found that quite interesting. Learning really came to the forefront despite the industry we work in. We all know L&D never prioritize their own learning, really, do we, guys? So I really found myself trying to do those training courses to not lose myself. Do you agree, Ilaria?
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you how much this resonates with me. And I think it's linked to like one of the other episodes on identity, and there's another one on loss as well. And thank you all for being so like candid as well about your experiences and your fertility journeys. Because like I had 4 miscarriages in my experience. And I think those also really affected how I lived my pregnancies afterwards. And then once I became pregnant, I was really anxious about it and, I couldn't fully enjoy it. And then somehow something that a lot of people take for granted is, then you become a mom. And as you say, I had this like identity crisis massively in terms of, my work and who I was and what I could do. But also I thought, now my body knows how to be pregnant and have a child. And I took for granted that that was going to be okay, or that the next pregnancy would come at a time when I had planned it. And also kind of like it doesn't work like that. It's not a linear journey. And so I found that there was a lot of emotions and like a lot of kind of like embodied experiences that people don't really talk about. And as you said, my pregnancies were completely different. So although I had learned a lot in my first pregnancy, I had to relearn a lot of different things for my other one. And I was a bit offended because I was considered a geriatric mother. To be fair, I was a little old, but that's not very nice. Simrat, what was your experience like?
A lot of things that Hannah, you or Anna, Ilaria you all have said have resonated with me, but my journey was a little very different. And I think maybe listeners could take something away from this, what we had talked about. It's different. No, I don't want to use the word different. It's to each of its own, right? Relearning, yes, my pregnancies, both were different, but then they were not overarchingly different. Like I knew a few things by the time I was pregnant second time when I was 38, and then I did not know a bunch of things at 34. And career-wise, I was not at the place that I really wanted to be in my career. So I took my first pregnancy as a eureka moment, saying, okay, it's time to focus on me, time to focus on my family, my personal self, and then kind of figure it out. Because I think I took this as an opportunity, the first pregnancy, to really get to know my body, get to know my womanhood, get to know how I operate, and it changed me. Like I would think it was interesting concept that I learned somewhere else, that for men out there and for even women, that you don't love the woman or the man the same way you love them when you married them, because the woman and the man, or human, we evolve every time we go through any such kind of embodied experiences. And I think pregnancy is a big one. Motherhood is a big one, where even my partner and my husband has to think of ways to love me now, because how he loved me before is not what the kind of love I need anymore, because it's changed, right? And so my experience, that's how my first pregnancy was. And the second time, I think I believed in this power so much that it made my first pregnancy and motherhood made me so strong with my own self, that I chose the second one. Now I was at a point where I had made that career shift. I was at a space where I wanted to be. And I also did not rush going back to work. Well, Canadians, we are lucky. We get around 12 months of maternity leave, by the way. So I don't know if that's how it is in the UK. We get 12 months of maternity leave, which you can also take for 18 months. Women choose to do 18 months or not because the pay then is spread out. It's really not a pay. It's, I would call it what is called EI, employment insurance sort of a thing, that you pay through your employment journey. You kind of keep paying a little bit into EI, into your provincial benefits. And then when you need it, you kind of get it. So if people think it's full pay, no, it's not. But it's something that I was born and brought up in India. So if I come from that space, then it's absolutely something that gives women to think about, to not discount them or motherhood penalty, if you may call it, in their career, so you don't feel bogged down a lot. But at the same time, but it's not as glorified as full pay. So I don't want to kind of people to get wrongful messages. But these were enlightening moments for me, both of them. I don't know, Glynis, how has your journey been?
I think the bit that's really caught my attention that everyone's mentioned so far has always been that identity shift piece. And I think I was prepared for an identity shift because I'd read all about it, I'd done all the reading, and I knew that when you become a mother, your identity shift, then you lose part of yourself and you gain this other part. So I was all prepared, of course. And then I've learned that it's completely not at all like that at all, and completely individual. But I think the main thing I've taken has been that it's not a one-off identity shift. It's a continuous identity shift, and it's so different than a professional identity shift, where most of those shifts are things that I've chosen. I've chosen a promotion, or I've chosen to specialize, or I've chosen to do some education or some training. With the parenting shift, there's the pregnancy shift, which I chosen, I was prepared for, but I wasn't prepared to feel nauseous at work all the time and have that impact the way that I behaved. And also the fact that I decided I didn't want to share before 12 weeks, but I was in a team. I was delivering training as part of this team. And I know that I don't need to feel well when I'm delivering training. Adrenaline will get me through, but not with nausea. So that was really hard, trying to keep it a secret, feeling guilty about keeping a secret, and trying to still deliver a good job. And then you've got the shift when you leave work, lose the professional image, but still now you've got this new mother thing. And then again, I was all prepared for the coming back to work. But I'd say the biggest shift has actually been more recent for me. And the realization it's going to keep shifting. Now having school-age children, whereas before it was, okay, I'm now a working mother. I'd gone part-time, now I've gone up to full-time again. And now I've got school-age children. My working life is now, for me, about role modelling, working to my daughters, as opposed to being just for me. I think that's been probably the biggest piece. But yes, the identity around geriatric pregnancy, I'm pleased to have lost that one. I can get rid of the geriatric bit now. Ilaria, what were you?
Yeah, I have to say that really speaks to my experience, but also to my research. So one of the things that I think also maybe like social media and kind of like the world tells us about bouncing back with our bodies and going back to who we were, but that's impossible, right? So I see it, and it took me a little while to see it more as like it's a continuous growth and continuous learning and continuous shifting. So what were you saying, Glynis, really speaks to me. And I think that identity and kind of like returning to work, my research shows that actually a lot of women go back to work because they have to financially, rather than that's when they've decided it's the optimum like time. And, you know, also in terms of taking maternity leave and leaving the workplace and disclosing or not in the workplace, where when you can, you know, at some point disclosure is kind of not in your hands anymore. But that has such an impact on people's careers and sense of identity as a professional and the way they embody work. And I have to say now, like you, when I think about my research or the projects that I want to take on, I also think about, you know, like the legacy for my children, which is important to me. And Hannah, what about you?
It's really interesting. We're all talking about this identity shift. And Simrat, you mentioned like the strength that comes from it. I actually found, like I've already alluded to, pregnancy was wild for me. Not just the pregnancy part, my life was wild at the same time. And I actually found that strength came across into the rest of my life as well, though. So I was made redundant at 5 months pregnant. It was completely legit. There are laws and protections around it. I was in a very small business. It was a legit redundancy. Hannah, before she fell pregnant, would have been a complete mess. The world would have been over. There were still lots of tears, don't get me wrong. Anybody knows the job I worked at, I loved my role. But I had no choice but to be strong, because I had a baby on the way and I was getting on with it. And I was thinking really pragmatically, what's my next move? What am I going to do? And that strength, and there was other things going on in my family life, and 2025 was a really wild year for us. I felt stronger than I'd ever been. And like I said, I had complications in the pregnancy. I had to go up to Great Ormond Street to have scans because they were so concerned about the baby and how well he'd be. Just to let you all know, he's absolutely fine. He came out perfectly. He didn't need any of the medical help they thought he might. But I was strong through it all, and people kept commenting to me like, Han, you're doing really well. I think also, as much as pregnancy makes us panic and thinking, oh, things are really changing and am I losing my identity? Am I a different person? Which I absolutely did too. It's given me a new identity too. And it's a really positive one, that it's not all bad. It's not all worries. It's, you know what, actually, it can be the making of some people. And I've not to blow my own trumpet, I think it really helped me to an extent. What do you think, Hannah?
I know, I feel quite inspired listening to you speak. It's almost making me want to be pregnant again.
5?
No, that is a joke. No, that was really nice though, hearing your words and also Ilaria's thoughts on that, and Glynis's about how pregnancy can actually be really quite an empowering phase of our lives, after post-pregnancy, and really give us that strength. And I was resonating on how being in the situation I am now as a lone parent and a sort of sole income, that can feel, that can come with a huge sense of responsibility. But as others have said, it now becomes about me role modeling, having a career and developing myself professionally, personally for my children. And pregnancy, I've been going through multiple pregnancies and various different challenges. Like you've said, Hannah, we've had sort of a few issues in pregnancy, and obviously I had the hyperemesis that although it's horrendous at the time, ultimately it does make you stronger, and you learn so much about yourself and your own strengths. So yeah, Simrat, did you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the strength piece, yes, while it's all what you've said is true, I also think that it gave us strength, to question the myths. The myths around pregnancy, the myth around, oh my God, I think I can name a lot. We can have a whole episode differently, just focusing on the myths, because there are pregnancy myths, and then there is what to eat, what not to eat, the whole spiel on it. But then there's also the pieces of marketing and the products. Oh, you need all of these things because you got a baby on the way. Well, you don't really. You've got 2 children now. You don't need all that. Right? Myths around work in a way that you will have baby brain, which is true. But at the same time, when you come back to work, I think workplaces can do so much better to prepare the women who are coming back from mat leave than any new employee. It's almost going through orientation and onboarding once again at a high level, because organizational structure changes in a year, projects change, way of working change, policies come up. But then I think women as leaders in L&D, people expect that they just remember this. And the myths around apologizing a lot when I came back to work, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I should have known this, No, I'm not sorry. I think second time the pregnancy, I canceled that myth. I stopped saying I'm sorry for not knowing it. I rather asked for things. What's the new organizational chart? Okay, what's the new team? What's my new mandate? What are policies that have changed? But I was very vocal about it when I came back from the second time. But at the same time, I think while I was vocal, it caused me penalty because I was questioning a few things. I was reaching out to HR and asking a few things. And I think I maybe would have rubbed people the wrong way, honestly speaking, because that's how it is, right? Like when you call the myths down, but it did give me the strength. My kids and my pregnancy and womanhood gave me the strength to question these things. And now I don't know which bucket this to put in, so maybe I can help. You all can help me put this in a bucket. Our mothers and women in our families who've gone through pregnancies, so grandmoms and great-grandmoms, I think because this pregnancy time and motherhood postpartum time is so fast-paced that they've forgotten their time. And so when they offer advices or pieces that really don't work for me, because to each of its own, I want to take that experience from them, but they don't have everything in memory to give it past me. So one thing I did was just note down things to pass on to my other friends because, hey, I would not remember this. My mom doesn't remember it, but she says, we could do it, then you could do it too. But then I am losing my hair. Like, I can't have it all together. So, Glynis, I don't know where to put this in bucket. Maybe, I don't know. What do you think?
It was just resonating so much. My last pregnancy was 3 years ago, and yet I couldn't give much useful advice these days because I know how much I've forgotten. I'm not forming memories the way I used to because of the sleep deprivation and everything else. The memories aren't being formed. There's no way I think I could give advice to someone in 20 years' time around pregnancy, partly because the science and the recommendations will have moved on, but also the way we remember it and hold on to it is just so completely different.
Just to say, yeah, I have a 3-year-old as well. And I think sometimes I took lots of advice from my friends who just had babies, like you were saying, Simrat. But there is also sometimes cognitively in your brain, you understand what someone is saying. But if you don't experience it, like lack of sleep, in that way, I now know why it's a form of torture in the military, because when people told me, you're not going to sleep and you're going to be so exhausted, I understood what they were saying, but I didn't really understand it at that level. So sometimes you just have to experience it and then see how you can live it within your body. And sometimes it's just really hard to understand, even if someone gives you that advice, isn't it, Hannah?
Yeah, I think the fact that people can't see me right now is a very good thing. I think I had about 2 hours sleep last night. As I said, newborn trenches. But I think the truth is about getting advice from people, going back to that point of like our parents and our grandparents. We live in such a different world now. My mum tried to go back to work after her maternity leave with my eldest brother and basically called my dad and said, I don't want to leave my baby. I'm not doing it. And then stayed at home for 16 years. I can't do that. I'm a career woman. And even talking to my mum, she's like, Hannah, I can't empathise with this. You live in a different world to what I did. Your career is so important to you. You want to go back to work. And I have the support around me. But actually, I think for most people, our parents, our grandparents can't give us advice because the expectations on women in the workplace now are so different, right? Anna, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that generational shift, isn't it? I know when my mum's tried to, bless her heart, speaks to me about just my day-to-day life now. It's like nothing that she ever experienced. I mean, when I was little, my mum was a cleaner and that she just used to take me with her. And that was her job. I went with her, which would be very unlikely to happen now. And it's completely different to the world I live bringing up my children than it was growing up in the 80s. I also think that pregnancy, due to this, can be quite a lonely place at work, can't it? Because it's very much dependent on if you have a friend in your team who's could be pregnant at the same time, or there might be no one, or there might be someone who had a baby a couple of years ago, but things have really changed then. So within teams at work, it can be a really lonely place. And I wonder if there's a bit of a need for sort of more communities, peer-to-peer communities where women can support each other in the industry through pregnancy. I don't know what others think on that. Glynis?
I've definitely worked in both in industries where, two different companies. The first pregnancy had both companies had lots of the peer forums and the networks, but one company had a lot more parents who are a lot more vocal about their parenting. The other industry is a lot more male dominated, had lots of working fathers, lots of women there, but the women not as many working mothers, I would say. And the difference has been dramatic. Where there were more working mothers, the communities were more alive. Yes, there are the communities, but the working mothers are still a minority. And it does make a big difference.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think something else that, how they say it takes a village, and both when you're pregnant and when you have children, if you're lucky to have them. But I know that, like, as a foreign woman in the UK, and my family is not here, that village is a lot smaller than it would be in my country of origin. And so, for example, I have, my husband is, absolutely wonderful, and we started on a very kind of like equality base of like sharing things that we could share. Obviously he couldn't like breastfeed or anything like that, but we have to rely very heavily on like paid childcare, and we both work full time. And as you say, there is this kind of like understanding that mothers will be the primary carers and they're the ones going part-time if needed. And so I think like in the workplace, there is still this assumption that, you have the ideal worker and the ideal mother, and the two are clashing. And very often, you have these networks of friends or colleagues that support you, but it's really hard if that village supporting you is a small village, isn't it, Hannah?
Being the one that's in the early stages of this journey, and I've not gone back to work. Disclaimer to everybody, don't worry, I'm not crazy. I haven't gone back 6 weeks postpartum. I just couldn't pass up on this opportunity to talk on this podcast. I think I've got an expectation on myself here that I'm still expected to show up exactly as I was before pregnancy. So even during pregnancy, I was still very much making sure my hair and makeup was done, making sure when I was recording podcasts or going to events, I looked a certain way. And as a woman, I was presenting myself a certain way. And there's such a big devil on my shoulder saying, Hannah, that's nonsense, regardless of pregnancy. I know it's my internal problem there. But I think if I turn up, and I'm kind of just vocalizing a fear essentially here and wondering what you guys think of it. But when I go back to work after having the baby, if I turn up without my makeup done, without my hair done properly, will that be she's got a young baby, and kind of make people take pity on me to an extent, which I don't want. That's not my identity at work. I'm confident, I'm strong, I get on with work. So do you think there's still that reputation around us as women that we have to present ourselves in a certain way, even after pregnancy and during pregnancy as well? Obviously, Anna, with your sickness, I'm sure severe sickness, that probably dampened things a little bit.
Yeah, a little. I think it's probably an unconscious and unspoken sort of societal expectation there, and maybe it is just us putting pressure on ourselves. I also think working in sort of the L&D where we do a lot of people-facing stuff, there is that expectation of continuing to present yourself in a certain way. I would like to think that it's more us just putting pressure on ourselves and society would accept us the way we were. But I actually don't know if I can say that and truly believe it. I'm not sure what others think about it.
I agree to all that you're saying. And I am also going to come back to strength that I constantly question this. I don't know who defined it, the appearance, the way we need to be out and about. I can't pinpoint it. I know that there is, Ilaria mentioned, I think there's a colleague, Harriet Short, with Peter Case and Michael, or maybe Isaac, who wrote a paper about this. I can't pinpoint I would love to meet that soul that created this whole definition around women coming from a middle management L&D in a corporate career. I was like you, Hannah. I would think that I don't spend every day my time in the morning, and I don't have the time, honestly, to do my hair, to do my makeup. I do a quick touch up and out of this is how I am. You can see me, an audience cannot, but this is how I usually am. And middle management, but then at a middle management level, when I'm talking to the executive leadership, now these are also women and mothers, but they are fully done. And I'm like, if I have to be there, maybe I cannot be there. This is silent Simrath talking to herself, that I cannot be there perhaps because, there's a certain definition of what to expect. And then the second myth that I also challenge there is I don't splurge on clothes and bags, and I can't justify. I rather have that money, liquid cash, than I spend $10,000 on a fabulous, beautiful wool coat. You know what I mean? But then the point is, that is the expectation, I think. I don't know. Glynis, what do you think? Do you think that's an expectation? It is.
I was completely agreeing with you around the choices with money thing. Quality childcare is now so much more important than clothes. I do think there's been a bit of a shift since COVID, perhaps, though. And I'm not sure if it's since COVID or if it's more of a generational thing, which you'd see through seniority. But I think perhaps younger people, I no longer put in as much effort as I did. And that's just who I am. I'm just going to own it and go, nope, no longer as important to me. You can take me or leave me. And I hope and I think that perhaps younger generations coming through might do more of that. Having said that, if I am going to see those more senior executives, I will absolutely, for my own level of confidence, put in a bit more effort. But for me, on those days, to make a difference as opposed to the norm.
Yeah, I totally understand that. It's like for me to feel good. And my eldest daughter always says, Mommy, you don't need to put on makeup and contacts. So you're already beautiful. She's very kind. But, and so I do it for myself. I say to her, I want to feel better. But now that I think of it, when I was pregnant, I was making more of an effort than, like, for example, now or after my first daughter was born. And I don't know if it's just like sheer lack of time and resources, but also reprioritizing kind of like what's important. And do I want to have go to like an experience with my daughter instead of buying like a really expensive cream or, so I think it has helped me reprioritize things, I think, a little bit. I don't know, Simran, what about you?
Well, so you said something beautiful because I have a 7-year-old and I'm teaching her not to, like, you're beautiful. You don't need extra things to make yourself beautiful. So now it's like my cat is coming back to me and saying, why are you putting makeup? So I like that she questions me because I taught her that. So you touched upon something very beautiful, Ilaria, right there. And at the same time, I think while we're talking about pregnancy, I find that I had to now this could be my experience, I put less effort in looking beautiful because the natural glow the pregnancy brought me, and I think women look the best. I would just want to be pregnant again to look the way my face was shining. Yes, I had postpartum. Yep, I had my fair share of melasma. Now I have to use like foundation and stuff to cover up my melasma brown spots. But during those 9 months, maybe with the vitamins that I was taking. So I also now think that, I actually need to feed my body with those beautiful things that I was feeding myself in those pregnant years and follow months, not years, and follow those diets, like we avoided oily food because it would give us whatever heartburn, and not to have a lot of coffee or tea because again, it was a lot of caffeine. So we were doing the right things in a way. And I feel like I just need to continue those to make it work. But at the same time, with the workload and with the motherhood load and with the family load, we are back to caffeine anyway, like I'm 2 cups a day, regardless. So anyway, I think that came to my mind so anybody listening out there thinking pregnancy will make you look different, no, I think it'll make you look beautiful. But Hannah, what do you have to say?
I've got to disagree. I looked my worst during pregnancy.
Same.
Honestly,
looks like a zombie.
I'm 6 weeks postpartum. We've had my baby's baptism already, and I must tell, I felt amazing on his baptism day. I felt like me again. My hair was done. I looked like me again. I did not get a pregnancy glow. That I felt shortchanged during pregnancy. So we're not all lucky like you, Simrat. Anna, what was you wanting to say?
Yeah, I was just, completely agree. I don't think I looked my best either, Hannah, and it just proves everyone's got different experiences, doesn't it? And some can really sort of embrace that beautiful illuminated skin, and then others just feel like every day is a battle. But I was just reflecting on what Ilaria and Simrat shared about their daughters and sort of what sort of conversations they'd had with them, and made me reflect on how my eldest daughter she's 20 this year, my eldest, and she's entered the world of work herself. And just from sort of watching me go through the pregnancies, bring her sisters up and juggle work, I feel I've really role modeled such a positive attitude she has both to learning and working. And already the confidence she has is she's probably a lot more confident than me, actually. She's got a corporate job and she's doing a degree apprenticeship and she's fantastic. So, the way that we're approaching learning and work through pregnancies and bringing children up really does have that knock-on effect to the next generation. And it's nice to see it starting to come to fruition somewhat with my children.
I love that. And I think in a way, because it's done like through sharing and experience and love, in a way, it's like learning that doesn't feel like learning. It's not, how sometimes children feel that learning is an imposition, but they are just like picking this up from us, which I think is beautiful, isn't it?
What would we, as a group, maybe we can think of some things that quick tips or something that the listeners can take away with them from? I mean, I'm sure if we continue talking about this, we can spend a lot of time, right? So what would you say to women that who will be pregnant and are listening to this, or maybe some tips? And I can start with the first one, which is build the positive community around you. Find mothers or women who are pregnant in your group and just talk about things and start to kind of question Google searches and not just follow it blindly. That would be my first one. But Hannah, go for it. What would you think?
2 top tips. Obviously, this is very fresh in my mind. Firstly, completely echo what you said there, Simran, about building that community around you. I'm sorry, can't remember who said it earlier about how lonely you can feel at work as well. For me, I was in a really small organisation. Now I'm technically unemployed. The women in learning community were such a support to me. There was so many women in that group that just made me feel like, okay, I'm not alone and I can do this. And secondly, and I think this might be a bit of because we're in L&D, we like to know stuff, right? We like to be the ones that are teaching and training and facilitating. I think my biggest top tip for someone that's trying to get pregnant or is pregnant right now is accept that you're the newbie again. Accept if it's your first pregnancy, obviously. You don't know what's happening. You do need to learn stuff. When the baby comes, it's even worse because you really don't know what you're doing. Like, how do I make a bottle of milk? I don't know what I'm doing here. I think having that acceptance that actually we should all be learning through this process and actually just throwing yourself into it and learning. My husband was reading books. We went to antenatal classes, asking people that you do trust, your friends that have done it before you. Actually learning from one another is so, so important during pregnancy. Dennis, what do you think?
I would absolutely second that idea of finding the positive role model for people to share. For me, I think my top tip is around planning and preparing. I am a planner. I have learnt through pregnancy and children that plans will never work. But for me, the preparation that goes into creating the plan still makes the planning worthwhile, even if I don't follow the plan.
I so espouse that. My top tip would be get to know and trust your body and your instinct and advocate for yourself, both with the medical profession, in the workplace, with, your friends. I think sometimes as pregnant women, our instincts or experiences are belittled or unheard. And I think it's really important that we, put that experience and ourselves in the center, really.
I'd also add one more big one, and I think I touched upon a little bit, but just to kind of make it very clear, the generation following us, it's all ChatGPT, AI, and Google. Yes, you can Google everything, but question the resources. Andrew, I think with Andrew and Natalie, I'd share a link in the chat here that can be used. We have in Canada, we have the best North American hospital for sick children. And there they have a website link called All About Kids Health, which talks about pregnancy, and that is where I questioned all the myths, whether it was breastfeeding, whether it was, I think we talked about whether we should feed milk to our toddlers or not, or all of those things, and including cravings. Everybody would ask me, and I would hate that question in pregnancy. Oh, what are you craving today? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm not really going through cravings. Yes, I craved a taste, but not a particular dish throughout my, the pregnancy. And so these things, I think it's good about those. That would be my tip, to read and educate yourself. And then, Ilaria, really what you said, know that your body has the strength. You just have to find it to go through this. Because we might make all the medical plans of our labor plans, but we don't know what happens on that day. And even on that day or not, like it could be weeks in advance or weeks in later, right? So we got to just have your hospital bag packed and you're good. And you don't know when, right? Hoping for the best.
Oh, some really great advice there. So I'll just obviously agree with everyone's thoughts and the top tips that you've already shared. I think final point from me would just be advice to listeners to embrace pregnancy as your own unique journey. And if you think about sort of the roller coaster of life, going fast, slow, up, down, everyone's experience will be different. So try not to compare. If you're pregnant and you're really into your career development and you're feeling illuminated, like Sinrat said, and you're feeling really energized, go for it. Don't let it put you off applying for that promotion, undertaking that qualification. Or you might have an experience where actually the main focus of your life needs to be the pregnancy because you might have medical issues, there might be other issues in your life, and that's also fine. So just embrace your own journey, rely on your peers, and most of all, actually enjoy it. Enjoy the life-changing experience and come out feeling empowered and stronger. Hannah?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got 5 women here, all gone through very different experiences, haven't we? All at very different stages of the journey. But I think we can all agree that comparison's a thief of joy. Like I said, I had a really bad pregnancy. I miss my bump. I miss being pregnant. It's crazy. Our bodies are weird as women, aren't they? And I just want to say thank you to you all for such a wonderful time. It's been quite cathartic for me, talking about pregnancy and thinking about how actually it changes our lives as women. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. Can we do it again?
Thank you so much. It's been very energizing, hasn't it?
Talking about it is so powerful.
Thank you all. Such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. I think we've created a community right here.
Navigating pregnancy is rarely straightforward, but by embracing the journey, seeking support and redefining the women, mother and parent identities, we can navigate the complexities of motherhood with confidence. A huge thank you to Ilaria, Anna, Glynis, Hannah and Simrat for their time and thoughtful conversation. Their contact details are in the show notes, along with links to our website, future episodes and our donation page. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Next time it's the sustainability one. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.